this was the best landing spot for him. Just reviewing the NFL, it looked like, boy, if he wound up in Tampa, that makes a lot of sense. Opposite Evans, you got a guy who goes up and gets those 50-50 balls, and then a burner who can get behind the defense, opening everything up. Look, does it put him ahead of the Falcons? The question with Tampa really is that defense. Were those takeaways, they had so many last year, does that regress to the mean? In other words, was some of that luck and it's not likely to happen again? Or was that somehow something intrinsic to the defense? Because if that defense is real this year, and now with DeSean Jackson, that gives Atlanta a real run for their money. Atlanta's still special, different kind of level offense. But that makes Tampa, maybe the most intriguing team to watch of the teams on the come-up this upcoming season.
Well, I think where it benefits Tampa, Max, is that it opens the field up for not just Evans, but Brait, Humphreys, and those guys, not to mention the fact that facilitates the running game with Doug Martin, because what you can't do is crowd the line of scrimmage, clog the blocks, and ultimately go after Jameis Winston more. It's going to serve to elevate their running game. It's going to help their short-range passing game. And more importantly, it's going to take some heat off of Jameis Winston, because you've got a deep threat to be concerned about, who, in my estimation, watching DeSean Jackson throughout the years, requires double coverage when he's going deep. This dude can fly, and you can't defend him one-on-one once he gets past those first 5 yards. He's just got too much speed, too much breakaway speed, too much quickness. It opens things up for Tampa. And if their defense is as legit as we believe it to be based on what we saw the latter part of last season, this is a big-time acquisition for them, and I think it could potentially propel them to the playoffs. It's going to be interesting to see how Carolina responds to that now that you consider Tampa and Atlanta in the same division.
DeSean Jackson is not one of the best players in football, but he's one of the scariest players in football, and particularly on this team, on Tampa, he's, the effect, the ripple effect he could have on that offense is potentially sky high.
Guys, as you just alluded to, Stephen A., obviously this division is going to be no joke. So if we're putting Atlanta at the top, do you think this puts Tampa as a distant second?
Not a distant second, but listen.
I mean, ahead of the Panthers?
Well, I don't know, to be quite honest with you. That's my answer. But you got to remember, Carolina goes 15-1 one season, and the next thing you know, they're out the playoffs the next. The only team that has been consistent is the New Orleans Saints with their ineptness. They've been potent offensively, inept defensively, and as a result, they've been either third or fourth in the division consistently over the last several years. But when you look at Carolina and what are you going to get from Cam Newton, but more importantly, what are you going to get from that defense? The expectations bloviated about the Atlanta Falcons, but they blow a Super Bowl, and you never know the residual impact of that, particularly now that they've lost their offensive coordinator as well. And then now you've got Tampa on the come-up. It's a crapshoot right now. I think you're looking at the situation, and the only thing that you would assume is that New Orleans will end up in last place. There's nothing else that you will assume about the division.
Right. I mean, both the last couple seasons, you get the Super Bowl loser coming out of that division, but they're getting to the Super Bowl. The question with Carolina, I think, Molly, is do they address their issues in this offseason, namely the receivers? I mean, Coach was on the show yesterday, Herm Edwards, and those receivers just looked, there's how else do you say but lazy last season? And their running game, they're giving the ball to Cam and expecting him to do all the work. You got to have a running back to carry that load. It can't be your quarterback. I'm Max Kellerman. Thanks for stopping by. Before you go, hit the button below to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you never miss a moment of me taking down Stephen A. Smith.